Now, joining me right now is Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin. She's a co-sponsor of this bill we're discussing here that the Senate's going to be voting on this afternoon. Senator, thank you for being here. Joe Manchin's now going to be a no. And as Manu said it, this is now going to be, there's going to be now a bipartisan majority opposing your bill. That's clearly not what you want, but is that even the message that you want to come from this afternoon?
Well, I think voters need to know where every senator stands on this important constitutional right that the Supreme Court appears poised to strip away from women the first time a constitutional right has been taken away rather than expansion of our rights. And at its core, we want to emphasize over and over again that this is about women's freedom to control their health care, their bodies, their family, and they need to know where their senators stand. The overwhelming majority of the American public believes that Roe versus Wade should remain in place. A very small percentage of those polled recently believe that it should be overturned. And I'm obviously disappointed that the entire Republican Party is willing to strip away this freedom for women. And by leaving it to the states, it means depending on where you live, you might have a very different set of rights. In Wisconsin,
but it also now, it isn't just Republicans now. It is your Democratic colleague, Joe Manchin, who's going to be voting against your bill. He says it goes too far. I mean, is this a surprise to you?
Let me talk about, I am a co-sponsor, as you mentioned, of the Women's Health Protection Act. And what it does is first codify Roe versus Wade, but then because we've seen hundreds of bills introduced and many passed in states across the country that restrict access to abortion care and full reproductive freedom for women, we also take the step of making it clear that a state cannot impede this constitutionally protected right, as so many have. And that's all it does. And so I think we've been very clear that we're on the side of fighting for women's freedom and constitutional rights. And again, I want to say, if you let it revert to the states, Wisconsin has a statute on the books that was passed in 1849. That's how old our abortion law is. That makes it illegal, would imprison doctors, and we shouldn't be sent back to the mid-1800s.
Can you speak to Joe Manchin's concerns and his no vote then? Because that's not a good look for Democrats if you're looking for unity to stand up in the face of this.
Yeah, well, I think his interpretation of the bill is incorrect when he says it goes a lot further. Actually, it keeps the states from interfering with Roe versus Wade and restricting access. That's the additional provisions of the Women's Health Protection Act, and they need to be there because look how many states have taken action, like the Texas law that allows vigilantes to go out and try to find anybody who aided or abetted an abortion.
You've said that you support, we know that this vote is going to fail. You want to get people on the record on this vote. You have said, though, also that you support opening up the filibuster to codify abortion rights nationally. And Dick Durbin, your fellow Democrat, was on this morning, and he suggested that a change in the Senate's voting rules at this point is not going to happen. How serious are you about this? I mean, are you taking this up with leadership?
I certainly believe that it is high time, when we're dealing with fundamental constitutional rights, whether that be the right to vote or a woman's freedom to control her own body and her health care and choose when and whether to have a family, that those are so fundamental to our democracy that we should be either reforming or doing away with the filibuster. I understand the math and know that it's very unlikely to happen given our attempts around voting rights to have a talking filibuster. We didn't actually try to repeal it outright. But I believe that we ought to be changing the Senate rules when it comes to fundamental constitutional rights.
Senator Tammy Baldwin, thank you for coming in.